Okay guys, so final day of learning before we can enjoy the weekend. So let's have a look at what we've got today. So again, we're going to start off with our reading and continue with chapter 5 of our Matilda text. And again, concentrating on those mixed vipers. So let's have a look at our first question. It says, why does Matilda's dad assume she's cheating? So again, we've got that why question tag, which implies that it's an inference question. And let's begin to find the information. So he's saying there, look, she's a little cheat, and this is sort of some of the reason that he's giving for it. No one in the world could give the right answer just like that, especially a girl. So my answer for this would be, I'm starting to think that obviously you can tell from that he thinks that boys are cleverer than girls, and potentially he is unable to do that himself, and because she's so young, he just doesn't think she can do it, so he just assumes he's cheating. So my answer for this one would be Matilda's dad assumes she's cheating because he knows he won't be able to add those numbers up in his head, and therefore thinks no one can do it. He also thinks boys are cleverer than girls, so doesn't believe she would be able to do it. Okay, so that would be my answer. So I'm just inferring that. Again, we haven't got any more information to go off other than that, but we know that he doesn't really like Matilda, and he doesn't really think she's very clever either, even though she is. So on to our last reading question of this video. So really simple one. How old is Matilda now? So this is just a retrieval question, nice and simple, and a very short answer for this. So with that question in mind, in the text, all I'm going to be doing with this is sort of scanning and skimming for maybe a number and maybe years old, and I can see if I do that, I've got that 5-year-old girl there. So my answer for this, Matilda is 5 years old. Don't need any more information other than that. Nice and simple. One full sentence, and that's done. So have a go at your mixed vipers, guys, for chapter 5 of Matilda, and I hope you're enjoying that book so far. Okay, so on to our maths, and we've really finished our geometry topic for now, and we're going to be moving on to just recapping and doing a little bit of arithmetic practice on our 4 number operations. So we're going to start off with the column method, and just a little reminder there, don't forget to carry. So we're going to add this decimal number. You can see that we've got in the first number 22.369, we've got 3 decimal places, and in the 5.78 we've only got 2 decimal places, so we need to be careful with our place value for this one. So if we start off with our 22.369, and then underneath that we need to fill that 8 under our hundredths column, the 7 under the tenths column, put a decimal point in, and then put our 5 in our units column or ones column. Now remember, the decimal point needs to be in line before you begin with these. It's really important. It's a great way of checking that your place value is correct. Okay, so now once we've done that, we can begin to add this up. Underneath that 9 on the right there, you could put a 0 if you wanted to, but you don't need to necessarily for this. So let's go ahead and add these up. So starting on the right, in our thousandths column, it's 9 plus 0 is 9, 6 plus 8 would be 14, so we're going to put our 4, and we're going to carry that 10 into the next column, which is the tenths column, and we're going to add 3 and 7 together, which is 10, plus our carried 1, which will be 11. So put our 1, and again we're going to have to carry, and we're going to add 2 and 5 together, which is 7, plus our carried, which will be 8, not forgetting our decimal point, and 2 add 0 is 2. So that would be our final answer for this one. Moving on then into subtraction, and don't forget to exchange on this one. So if you want to have a go, pause the video now. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. So starting on the right hand side, remember checking our place value is correct, and we can see it is. We're going to take 8 away from 6, but obviously we can't do that, so we're going to have to borrow. So we're going to have to borrow from the column to the left. So I'm going to cross out that 3 and make that now 2, and carry that 1, that 10 over to this column. So now I've got 16 take away 8, which would be 8. And now I'm into this column again. I'm going to have to exchange because I've got 2 subtract 7, which again I can't do. So I'm going to have to borrow from the column to the left. So borrow from that 6, make that 5, take my 10 over. So I've got 12 take away 7, which would be 5. And now I'm okay on this one, so I can do 5 take away 5, which is 0, and 6 take away 0, which would be 6. So that would be my answer for this one. Again, really importantly, don't forget to exchange on your subtraction when you can't take the bottom number from the top. Okay, I'm moving on to our long multiplication. So called long multiplication because it takes there's a few more steps to this one. So we've got a 3-digit number multiplied by a 2-digit number. So setting it up just as you would a column method for addition or subtraction. But this time we're going to have 2 rows, so I've given myself some more space so that I can work out the answer to this one. So we're going to do, although we're doing 636 times 26, we're actually first of all going to do 636 times 6, and that's going to be our first row below. So we're going to do 6 times 6, starting off on the right, would be 36. So I'm going to put my 6 there, and I'm going to carry a little 3 just there. Then I'm going to do 6 times 3, which would be 18, plus my 3, which would be 21. So I'm going to put my 1, and I'm going to carry my 2 into the next column. Then I'm going to do 6 times 6 again, which is 36, plus that 2 would be 38. Now I've got nothing, there's no need to carry now because I've got nothing more to carry on to, so I just put my 38 in there. So that 3,816 that you can see there, that actually represents 636 times 6. Okay, so now we're going to be doing 636 times 20. So to make it a little bit easy though, rather than doing times 20, if we put our 0 in to hold our place value, we can actually times everything now by 2. So 2 times 6 would be 12, carry our 1. 2 times 3 would be 6, plus our 1 would be 7. 2 times 6 would be 12, again, put that straight in, there's nowhere for that to go. So that bottom line now, 12,720, that is 636 times 20. Okay, so now we need to put that all together because we've got 636 times 6 and we've got 636 times 20, and we want 636 times 26. So we're going to add these together. So I've put my little add sign there so you can see, and I've created another line at the bottom to add them up. So 6 add 0 is 6, 1 add 2 would be 3, ignoring our red carries from before now. 8 add 7 is 15, so put my 5, carry my 1. 3 add 2 plus 1 would be 6, and then 1 add nothing would be 1. Sorry, 16,536. Okay, and on to short division. So if you want to have a practice at this one, pause the video and have a go. So create my little bus stop little symbol for this. Now the number that you're dividing by goes on the outside. We're divided by 5, so that goes on the outside of the bus stop, and under the shelter would go the number that we are dividing, 3,453. So all the way through these we're just asking ourselves, does 5 go into 3? Well, it doesn't, because 5 is bigger than 3. So what we need to do is we need to cross that one out, put a 0 up there because just to show you that it doesn't go into it, and we're going to carry that 3 over there to make 34. So does 5 go into 34? Well, yes it does. So using our times tables, 5 times 6 is 30. Can't get any closer to, can't go beyond that, so we can't go to 35, which would be 5 times 7. So it goes in 6 times. And we're going to carry the 4 over. The difference between 34 and 30 is 4, so carry that 4 onto the next number, onto that 5. So now we're saying, does 5 go into 45? And it does quite nicely, it ends in a 5, so 5 times 9 is 45, so it goes in 9 times. And then finally, this is why it's really important to put those zeros in wherever you are in the calculation. Does 5 go into 3? Well, we've decided that it didn't at the beginning, so we must here cross that out, put a 0, and that's going to give us a remainder of 3. So our answer for this one would be 690 remainder 3. So hopefully that's just a nice recap of those 4 operations. Keep going with your times table rock stars. It's really going to help with that long division and make it much faster. Okay, so onto our writing, and then this is the final day of our spelling, punctuation and grammar practice. And we're just going to look at relative clauses, which again we've done before, so nice little bit of revision for you today. So just recap where we can place a relative clause. Remember, a sentence, a simple sentence is a main clause, and the relative clause is some extra information, a little bit like parenthesis. So what we need to decide on is where the relative clause has been placed in the following sentences. So in the first one, you've got the class were well behaved on the school trip, which made their teacher proud. Now, all the time you've got these relative clauses. You'll have, or you might not always have it, but generally you'll see a relative pronoun. That's that which. So you can see on this one, if I bring them up all first, and we can see them together. First one, you've got that relative clause at the end. Second one, William, who was wearing his favourite t-shirt, was going to the school disco. So this is a little bit like yesterday's lesson. This is actually parenthesis here with commas. You've got that who was wearing his favourite t-shirt. And then I go to swimming club early in the morning, which means I'm tired by the afternoon. So again, that relative clause been added at the end, so it can either go in the middle or at the end. And then finally you can see, have you seen the people whom we met yesterday at the park? Again, that's been added at the end. And last one, again you can see that his neighbour had lost. Amir found his missing cat that his neighbour had lost. It's the end of the sentence there. So it can go at the end and it can go at the middle. If it's in the middle, we call it an embedded relative clause, just to make sure that's clear. And it's just an example of parentheses, remember that too. So for this one, I'm just going to uncover one of these pictures, and then we're going to have a go at writing a relative clause sentence about it. So let's click on this one over here. and you can see you've got 2 cars crashing. So before we flick over to the next slide, pause the video, see if you can write a sentence that would have a relative clause in about that little picture there. Okay, so that was a picture that we had, that was the one that we uncovered, and I'm going to show you 2 examples, one where it's an embedded, so it's in the middle of the sentence, and one relative clause where it's at the end. So first one, the red car, which was badly damaged, had to be taken to the garage to be repaired. So you can see I've highlighted the relative clause there with a relative pronoun, which was badly damaged, underlined, look, there for relative pronoun. And let's change the sentence and put the relative clause at the end. In the town centre, so that's just a frontoverbial there, the red car crashed into the blue car, which had been travelling too fast. Okay, so we've got that relative clause at the end, and again, same relative pronoun of which in there. Okay, so let's have a quick quiz on this and just recap what we've had a look at so far. And for each of the sentences, there's going to be 4 sentences coming up. You just need to identify the relative pronoun. So see if you can do that, just the pronoun, not the actual clause on this. Okay, so if you pause the video there, see for each of the sentences, if you can work out which one is the relative pronoun. So first one, I can't eat that chocolate bar because it has nuts in, which I'm allergic to. So your relative clause is which I'm allergic to, so the relative pronoun must be which. Mangoes, which are grown in tropical countries, are one of my favourite foods. So you've got an embedded relative clause here and starts with which again. The cats that were caterwauling last night kept me awake. So you've got that were caterwauling last night is your relative clause. So you've got that relative pronoun. And Jamal, who is a fantastic guitarist, has joined the school band. So you've got that who relative pronoun there too. Okay, and the last little bit before you start your activity on these, let's see if we can match the main clause to an appropriate relative clause. So on the left in blue is the main clause, and on the right is your relative clause, is in pink. So we just need to match the appropriate one. So again, the best way to solve anything like this would be just to read the main clause with the relative clause, see if it sounds about right. So the cat scratched my arm, who is 3 years younger than me. That doesn't make sense. The cat scratched my arm, who had fallen from the tall slide. The cat scratched my arm, which made it sore. Sounds about right. So that one would go there. The paddling pool is full of cool water, who is 3 years younger than me, doesn't make sense. The paddling pool is full of cool water, who had fallen from the tall slide. Again, that doesn't make sense. So it must be the last one. The paddling pool is full of cool water, which is fabulous on this hot day. Makes sense to me. And then we've got I have a sister who is 3 years younger than me. Sounds right. And then the ambulance rushed to help the child who had fallen from the tall slide. Must be that one. Okay, so hopefully that's giving you just a recap of those relative clauses and relative pronouns, and hopefully you'll be okay with those in your packs.